Hello, my fellow Java code geeks. My name is Andy, and today we're going to be talking about Netbeans. How do you download it? How do you install it? How do you get around in it, some of the features? And how do we write our first program in it using Java? Now, complementary to this video tutorial, you can find related articles and resources in the description below. Of course, you may visit Java Code Geeks and stay up to date with everything Java related. Just before we continue, if you guys like these guides and videos, take a minute to subscribe, like, and don't forget to hit that notification bell, just so you know when our next video is up. So, without further ado, let's get started. Today's agenda is going to be the Netbeans IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. We're going to install Netbeans. Then we're going to create our first Java program, which will include creating a project, creating a file, or what's known as a class in Java. The main method, what is it? How do we make it? Printing some text to the output window. And of course, where are the Java files actually located on your computer? And finally, we'll do a tour of Netbeans, some common features of things that you may be using more regularly. So the first thing you're going to have to do is download and install a program for Netbeans. Easiest way, just go into Google search and just type Netbeans download. You'll come up with the following link by Oracle. Click on it, and then you can see here we have download options. Now, you can download the latest version, you can download one of the older releases, whichever one you choose. Whichever one you pick, when you click download, the next thing you have to pick is the kind of operating system you have. So for me, I would download Windows because I have a Windows 64 computer. Whichever one you need to download, that's what you do. Now, that's pretty standard. So pause the video while you download the install program, and then we'll continue. So when you run the install program, the first window that pops up gives you a list of every single thing that's going to be installed. My recommendation, don't change anything. This is everything you'll need. Click Next. Now you get the standard accept the terms of the license agreement. Make sure you check the box at the bottom of the screen. Click Next. When you do, you'll get this screen. This tells you two things. Where is Netbeans going to be installed on your hard drive? And where is the JDK going to be installed on your hard drive? Now, Netbeans allows you to write programs in multiple languages, not just Java. You can write C++, you can write PHP, and so on. This will install the JDK, which will allow Netbeans to interact with Java and allow you to write Java programs. So my recommendation, don't change anything here. Click Next. And then, of course, the last screen will prompt you to see if you want to check for updates. I recommend leaving this box checked. That way, every time Oracle puts out a new version, you'll get updated. So pause the video while it's installing, and when you're ready, come on back and we'll continue our tour of Netbeans. So what exactly goes into a Java program? Well, every Java program consists of one or more .java files. This is similar to Microsoft Word, where all of the documents end in .doc. That indicates that it's a Microsoft Word file. .xls indicates that it's a Microsoft Excel file, while .java indicates that it's a Java file. Now, in Java, files are also known as classes. That's something we'll talk about in a future video. Now, every program consists of one or more Java files. So we could technically have a whole bunch of them. So what actually combines them into one big thing? It's called a project. In Netbeans, you create a project, and within that project, you can have one or more Java files. Usually, you'll have a whole bunch. But for today's purposes, what we're going to do is we're going to create one Java file. So we're not going to have a whole bunch of them. We're going to create one Java file that does a very simple task. So let's head over to Netbeans and see how we can write our first Java program. So this is the Netbeans IDE. When you first open it up, you'll have something over here called Start Page. This is just a generic introductory page. You can just close this. You can actually click this checkbox, so this will never appear when you open it again. But this is a place where you can go to kind of just see what's new in this version, stuff like that. Pretty standard thing. I'm going to close it because we don't need it. Now, for you, you're going to have blank over here, blank over here, blank over here, blank over here. Now, I have blanks in all of those locations except here because I've actually written a bunch of code already, a bunch of projects. These are my projects. So how do we create a new one? Well, you go to File, New Project, and now it's going to prompt you, what kind of project are you creating? Well, you want to start with Java, Java Application, and click Next. Now the project name, we'll just call this My First Project. Now I want you to just notice something. The name of the project is one word. It's one big string. There are no spaces in here. But the convention is that we title our project name where we capitalize the first letter of every single word in the project name. So as you can see, the M, the F, and the P are all capitalized. This is where it's going to be stored. Of course, I can hit browse and change it, but this is the directory where it's going to be stored. So I'm actually going to change this directory. I can put it anywhere I like. In fact, if I want, I can put it on my desktop. So I'll put it on my desktop. Now, another thing that I want to mention is you should have this unchecked. And this one, well, this is kind of it's a call that you're going to have to make. My preference, uncheck it, because this will actually create code for you if you have it checked. My personal recommendation is write your code yourself. Don't let NetBeans write your program for you. It's always a better idea for you to do it yourself. So my recommendation, uncheck this, click Finish, and now, as you can see, we created my first project. Now let's create a class within that project. In other words, a Java file in that project. So I will right-click on this project. Under New, I'm going to move over to Java Class. And when I click that, it pops up a little window that says, okay, what's my class name? Now, just like with the project, the convention is one word. You can't have multiple words here, no spaces. And the first letter of every word in the class name will be capitalized. So I'm going to call this Hello World. And you can see it's telling you what project it's going to be in, obviously, because that was where I right-clicked. And I'm going to click Finish. And here is my new Java file. Now, all of these comments here, I'm just going to get rid of them. We'll talk about comments later on. As you can see, it added some code for me. It says public class hello world. Then we have an open curly bracket and a closed curly bracket. As I said before, every single Java file that you create is called a class. So we are creating something called a class, and the name of the class is Hello World with a capital H and a capital W. That's the name of the file that I've chosen. One other thing to mention is that Java is case sensitive. So if I change this to an H, lowercase h, notice it's underlined in red. And that's because this name needs to exactly match my file name. Let me change it back to capital H. Okay, now let's write some code in here. The first thing we're going to do is write this line, public static void main, and then parentheses. Now inside the parentheses, we're going to write the word string with a capital S. Then we're going to do open and close square brackets, space, and then the word ARGS. And then at the end, we'll hit enter, and we'll do open curly bracket, and NetBeans will automatically put a closed curly bracket. Every single Java program has to have this in it. Now, this program's goal is to just print something to the output window. Where's the output window? It's right down here. So I'm going to write a Java command that will print something to the output window. And here's how I do that. System.out.println, open parentheses, close parentheses. Now, whatever goes inside the parentheses is what's going to be printed in our output window. This command, println, really stands for print line. In other words, print whatever's inside the parentheses, and then the ln line means go to the next line, carriage return. Now let's print something. We have to put it in quotation marks, and we will print hello world. Now let's run our program. The way you run this program is you use the menu option Run, Run File. As you can see, it printed hello world. It went to the next line, and then it printed something like, oh, well, I ran my program successfully. It took very, very little time. Great. So where are these files actually located? I mean, we created this project, and we created this .java file, hello world.java. Where is that actually located on your computer? So let's head over to our File Explorer. And if you remember, when we created our project, we put it in our desktop. So if we click on Desktop, you should see a project, my first project. And if you double click in there, we now have all of these directories. These are the things that NetBeans creates. We have a build directory, which is used for running and creating an actual program that you can give to people. And then we have an SRC directory. This is the source. So if I click on source, double click, inside here, as you can see, I have a file called Hello World. What type of file? It's a Java file. This is the file or class that I created. Now, if I double click on this, I can open it up in, say, a text editor like Notepad, and here's all my code. I could modify it here, but I wouldn't recommend that, because when you modify something in a regular old text editor, it's not going to highlight any mistakes you've made. However, if you make changes within NetBeans, NetBeans is going to tell you that you've made a mistake. For example, if you remember, when I changed this H to a lowercase h, this was all underlined in red. If I do that here, it doesn't happen. Notepad doesn't know that this is a Java program. It just knows that this is text. So it's never a good idea to modify this. So let's go on a little tour of NetBeans. So in NetBeans, we have this window over here. This is where you actually write your program. Now, as you can see at the top, there's a little tab that tells me the name of the file that I'm working on, the name of the class. I could, of course, have multiple classes in my project, and in that case, I could have all of the tabs open and switch between them as I normally would with tabs. Down here is the output window. This window here is where any output will be displayed. System.out.println, possibly any errors. If I run my program and something doesn't work, there could be an error message listed here. This is everything that gets displayed to you as feedback. Up here is a list of all of the different projects that I've created. Now, as you can see, you will have only this one, but I have a whole bunch that I've worked on. If I click on Files, this is kind of like mimicking my File Explorer. I usually don't use this. I usually stick with the project. And if I open this up, I can actually see the different Java files there are. Now, I can open up another project, go to Source, and you can see I have a whole bunch of Java files. Down here is a navigator. This is going to show you the Java file and all of the methods within it. Now, this main is called a method. As you can see, it's showing that method down here. However, if I wanted to show something a little more involved, I could go in here and let me click on one of my programs. So how about we do learning methods? As you can see, this file, learningmethods.java, has multiple things in here. And it just kind of shows you an outline of what's in your program. Okay, let's take a look at some other common features. I mean, the menu bar is pretty much standard. New file, new project. This is saved, so if I make a change here, this appears. Now, it's important to note that you will need to obviously save your program, but when you run your program, it automatically saves it for you. So if you just, all you have to do is test your program every single time you make a change, it's automatically going to save. And I think that's a very nice feature. All right, so let's start looking at some of the menu options. Well, file, I mean, that's pretty standard. Open, close, save as, print, it's basically same stuff. Edit, again, same thing as in most applications. View, again, same deal. The run menu is how you run your Java program. We have this file open, you do run file, and that runs your program. What does it run exactly? Well, it's going to run all the code inside main. Now, in future videos, we're going to be programming other things as well. We're going to be programming more stuff than just this line and what's in here. So when you do run file, NetBeans will go all the way to wherever you have this main method, and it's going to run what's in here first. Now, build project is something where you can actually take this Java program and create something that you can send to other people to run, so they don't have to actually open up NetBeans to run your program. Usually, you want to just send them, say, an executable file. That's how you would do that. You would do run, and you would build your project. The debugger is something where you can actually step through your code as you're running your program. So, for example, let's say I had more lines of code here. Let's say I wanted to print Hello World. And let's say I wanted to print, I'm going to print 2 other lines. Now you notice I'm typing system.out.println. I made a little typo here, so I have to fix it. I'm typing that every single time. There actually is a shortcut in NetBeans. Now, it may not be that way in other IDEs, but in NetBeans, if you type SOUT and then hit the tab key, it automatically assumes it's system.out.println. S out. And then it gives you this, and you can type something in. I am fine. Thanks. Okay, so we're printing 4 things. So let's just run this, make sure it works. And there we go. Now, again, as I've said before, the ln means we go to the next line. So if we print hello world, print ln, it prints hello world, goes to the next line, then prints this, goes to the next line, and so on. What happens if we don't want to print line? We don't want to go to the next line? Well, all you have to do is take out the ln. And now it's going to print hello world, go to the next line. It's going to print hi there, but it's not going to go to the next line, and then it's going to continue. Let's just take a quick look here. Okay, and as you can see, it didn't go to the next line. But let's put that back. And now I want to show you the debugger. The debugger, again, allows you to run your program, but it'll step through your code. So you can actually follow along and see what line is being executed at a certain time. So let me clear out. If I right-click in here and hit clear, all the output goes away. Now, if I say debug, and I say debug my project, it's going to ask me, where's my main? Okay, where's my main method? I'm going to say, okay, here it is. And it runs my program. As you can see, it didn't step through the code like I said. And that's because we haven't created a breakpoint. Where will NetBeans stop and pause the program so you can actually step through your code? Well, what I need to do is I need to click on one of these lines, one of these line numbers here. And when I do that, you can see it's highlighted in red. This little box means we now have a breakpoint here. So now if I do debug my project, you can see what happens is Java is running. It's in the middle of running, and you can see down here at the bottom, it says that my first project is in fact running. By the way, I could click this X to stop it, but I don't want to. Now I'm over here. The green line is where Java is actually located. If I click this button here, step, it will step to the next line. As you can see, this one is now green. But now this line up here, line 4, got executed. It printed hello world. Now I can step to the next line over here, and you can see that it printed hi there. And if I want to just continue the program, I would hit this. And I continue. I'm sure we're going to be doing another video on the debugger, but I just wanted to show you because we're kind of going through the different features of NetBeans at this point. Now, if we want to get rid of this breakpoint, we just click on this again. Goodbye. Let's take a look at some other common features. I mean, you can play around with everything in this menu, profile, refractor. I mean, these are things you're just going to have to try for yourself. And, you know, when you get to need something, you'll find it. But tools is something that I want to show you. Tools actually has an options. Now, what's in here? Well, there's a whole bunch of standard things, like I could change the appearance, the editor. The editor has something called, let's see, code completion. Now, this is quite useful. Auto pop-up completion window. Now, what exactly is that? Let me show you. When I type system.out, if I type dot, you notice a window pops up. And this is going to show me everything that I could possibly put after this dot. As you can see, out is here. I can click on it if I want, or double click on it actually. Now I do dot. And now it's going to pop up everything that I could put after that dot. And I'm going to be looking for print line. Here it is. Okay. But now this is more of a style, like your style. If you like the pop-ups, fine. If you don't like the pop-ups, you have the option to turn them off. So let me go to options, go to code completion. I could turn that off. So if I don't like that, I would hit apply. And now if I type dot, you can see that nothing pops up. So it's really just a matter of preference. Do you like that or do you not like it? I'm actually going to turn that back on because I sometimes, sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. But more often than not, I like it. Let me get rid of this. Let's go back into options and take a look at what else is in there. So, like I said, you play around with all these, customize NetBeans to the way you like it. Fonts and colors is something that I've used in the past. This is where you could specify the font and the size of the text that appears in this window and in the output window. So if you like bigger font, smaller font, you want a different color, and so on. I'm going to leave it the way it is. Now, I actually have increased the size of my font just because I prefer it. When I make these videos, it makes it easier for you folks to see it. Well, I think that about does it for NetBeans. I think we went over some of the more common features that you're going to use. And like I said before, play around with it. If there's anything that you need, you'll be able to find it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to smush that like button and subscribe to the channel. We've got some really cool stuff coming up. Bye.